Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. It's been a couple weeks since I recorded, and I thought I would give you a super quick update. And today I would like to talk about my kind of an overview of my personal development, personal work journey, to just kind of add another little bit of a layer. So I think the last recording and episode was end of September. I am currently recording Friday, October 17th. So it's been a couple weeks. Right around the time that the last podcast episode came out. My sister and her husband were home for a visit out from out west. I actually remember they were over, and I was kind of fighting with my programs to get the episode edited and scheduled for the Monday because I think it ended up going out I think it went out on the Monday, but later in the day than I anticipated because Sunday night I was just kind of fighting with it. So my sister and husband were home for a week. Kind of dropped everything just to spend as much time with them as possible. I don't get to see Jeremy often. He's typically doesn't come with Becky when she visits. She comes home twice a year. And I have not been out there often, back out west often either. So it was kind of one of those opportunities where you just make the most of the time that you have together. And totally did that. Lots of adventures, showing Jeremy around Ontario, like locally where my sisters kind of grew up and our family is. So it was a wonderful week. And then kind of since then, I've been sewing a lot and getting ready for craft market, vendor market season. So my mom and I have a craft market tomorrow, our first one of the season, and we've been busy bees. And I think I'm trying to remember if I mentioned the last episode. If I didn't, I did because I told you about getting back in the pool to swim. And I, I I don't know why I waited so long. If so anyway, the lesson around that is if there's something that, especially if you exercise and movement stuff doesn't necessarily come like easily in that there's not um like for me, I can't go to I have no interest in like going to the gym. Um I never have. Even when I worked at the Y, I never used the gym. I only used the pool. So if there is something that gets your body moving, um that like lights you up, do that thing. Don't make it hard. I've said in this podcast before, like it's long overdue. I've been getting the nudges and nudges and nudges to start moving my body and get into a groove. I've totally kind of made myself a victim to my shift work, saying, "Oh, well, it's been hard to adjust." But like I've been doing shift work for six and a half years. So I'm kind of like calling myself out on it. Like, get it together, figure it out. So I'm figuring it out. And what that looks like for me is I found a pool. It's about a half hour away. So yeah, there's a drive. But I love listening to podcasts. So it actually gives me an opportunity to listen to podcasts, catch up with things. I don't mind driving. I like driving all over the place. My car just rolled over 350,000 kilometers a few days ago. So, Jerry and I call her Jerry, my little Dodge Dart. We've had many adventures together. So I use that opportunity to catch up on podcasts and just kind of like be with myself. And then I swim 20 to 40 lengths, which is half a kilometer to a kilometer. And honestly, I don't make it hard on myself. If I'm not feeling maybe the greatest, I say like, just do it, like start with 10, see how it goes. I always end up doing more. Now, this week I've been on my cycle, so some cramping and just kind of bleh. So the one day I just swam 20. I took it nice and slow. It was very Swimming to me is always very meditative because it's like there's a rhythm, there's a cadence to it, especially when you're swimming front stroke, I breathe every 3 breaths. So I'm like counting my strokes and my breaths. I'm counting what lap I'm on so that I can keep track. And it kind of it's like m moving meditation. And it's very as soon as I dive in and I hit the surface of the water and I go into the water, it's like my whole body lights up, and all I can think about is there's nowhere I would rather be right now. Um, so 1 second. That was just my mom calling, so I'll have to get back to her. Anyway, um, yeah, so I got back in the pool. I totally went on a side tangent, sorry about that. And juggling more things then, right? Because I have work, and then I'm playing indoor volleyball once a week now. My goal is to swim a minimum of 2 times per week. And like I was saying before, what that looks like is I either go after work, which I finish work around 7, and there's a lane swim Monday to Friday, 8 to 9. So I'll either go after work on a day shift, and it's about 20 minutes from work. So I'll just go, and I'm always early, and then I'll just like read my book and kind of get ready. And and then some other days, if I'm on days off, especially because I've been home more to be sewing and doing other things around the house now that the season's kind of winding down, we're getting the boat ready to kind of tuck away for the winter. There's a morning swim in the morning, so it gives me an opportunity to get my butt out of bed earlier than I normally would. And I go swim, and the only willpower that it takes is literally getting out of bed. Once I'm out of bed, I put my swimsuit on, I kind of have everything organized, I just throw stuff in my bag, and then I'm out the door. And the rest of it is like I'm excited because I love swimming. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was back doing it. So I encourage you, if you have your version, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's something else, and you haven't done it in a while, like get curious and rediscover it. And I think that's a great segue into what I'd like to talk about next. And that's my personal development journey to kind of, yeah, give you a little bit more history about me, and how I've gotten to where I am with this work, both with myself and wanting to serve and assist and guide and mentor others. So my first, my first kind of experience with personal development that really stands out. I imagine there was maybe a little bit of reflection after Nicole died and stuff because I think though going through, I'm just collecting my thoughts a little bit. When like the big life things happen, those tend to be the times that I have kind of naturally taken pause and reflected. So when I was 19, yeah, 19 was kind of like the first big one that stands out for me. It was after the end of my first relationship. This like I won't go into all the details, whatever, because it really doesn't matter. But the relationship wasn't the healthiest. And there was history to it. I knew the person for about 5 years. I would say from my perspective, definitely more invested in it emotionally and stuff. Yeah, in an unhealthy way. So to the point where I kind of I not kind of I tied my identity to this person. And so as you can probably anticipate, when the uncoupling happens, uh I lost a big part of my identity, like who am I without this person? And I think that's just kind of a natural thing, and it happens when you're young and such. So it was just, yeah, it was a very like striking moment and kind of time. Lots, all the emotions. And I do remember having a reflection like through that period, or even just, I don't even remember exactly when it came to me, but I was at a local ski hill doing like a night snowboarding, and I met someone on the chairlift. We were just chit-chatting, and what was really like wild to me was I actually started talking about my boyfriend at the time before I said anything about me. Like he was brought into the conversation as if he was like a bigger part of me than I was. So I kind of was just like, whoa, it really kind of stood out to me. And this started my personal development journey. And what I decided was, especially because I had known this person since I was 14, like this was a 5 year, like very kind of formative years, right? Very emotionally invested and such. So I was quite heartbroken when it ended, but um, had to happen, and I'm glad it did. And what I kind of took from that and the route I decided to go was one, I made a commitment to not date and get into a relationship for a year because I knew that I had some shit to work out. And I I also knew that if I got into something too soon, that I would be bringing baggage from the previous relationship into the current one. And I mean, it definitely wasn't perfect when then Eric was the next person I started dating. I'm now married. So obviously it wasn't perfect, but I did have that like intention and awareness around like I don't want to bring in that relationship into this one. And I want to kind of heal and tie up some loose ends or at least be like really in the work in the midst of it before anything um future occurs and I start dating anyone. And so I want to kind of share what that looks like and try to keep it brief so I could take you along the journey and this not just be about the first experience. But what I started doing was things like dating myself. So it's like the year of being single. I started dating myself. I would go for dinner by myself. I would go for a movie by myself. And because I realized like I am with me for my entire life. So it would be very beneficial if I know myself well and if I love myself. So I treated it as building like a new relationship, but with myself. Who am I now? And part of that work also was really like holding the mirror up to myself and looking at what was in front of me and taking an inventory and giving myself grace because if we feel shame gets suppressed and we don't work it out. So giving myself grace around really what I was looking at, who I am being, who I'm being. What are the parts of myself that I like? What are the parts of myself that maybe feel a little bit cringy or I'm not so like fond of? And working with all of it. Now, the things that I really liked, it's like, how do I continue, maintain, or amplify? And the things that I'm not super like proud of, um, how do I kind of work that out, give myself forgiveness and just know that um it's brought me to where I am now and what needs to shift and where do I want to go next? Like the intentionality is if I don't like these things, instead of just like making them all wrong and stuff and sitting in it, um, it's okay. But what would I actually like? Where do I actually want to go, and what do I need to do to start moving down that path? Like carving out a new path for myself. So, like I said, dating myself. I also did a week free of my phone and social media. I had my cell phone with me in case I needed to make a phone call like for driving and stuff because I worked about 45 minutes from where I lived and that was the summer I actually met Eric. So it was like I'm in the work and also developing a crush on someone. So that was interesting, but that's a different story. Um, I took a week off and that week was very intentional. I gave my friends a heads up that I would just be with myself that week. Aside from going to work and interacting with my colleagues, evenings would be by myself. There would be no social media, no MSN Messenger like back in that day. And the intention around that was I wanted to make the decision and have create space for myself so that I could really kind of weigh the pros and cons, Two, whether I wanted my now ex-boyfriend to have a space in my life. If not, letting go, deleting off social media, not contacting anymore kind of thing. And if I did decide, what would that look like so that I was honoring my own boundaries and values? Because in the past, there was a time where we had no contact for about a year, and then it kind of just I reached out and kind of fell back into the ways. So I knew that it would be, especially not long after the split, easy to kind of slide back in, and maybe it wasn't the best thing for me. So I took a week of just quiet. I came home. I think I watched some Sex and the City, like I maybe like watched some TV, but a lot of just kind of quiet time and just being with myself. And ultimately I decided that this was not a person that I wanted to be in my life, at least not at that time. Um, so I made my decision, but I think it's important. And I think I don't remember reading this in the book. I guess intuitively knew this or whatever. Um, that you gotta create the space in order to kind of get that context and perspective, that greater perspective. You need to be able to lean back a little bit and see the wider picture. Great decision. I never looked back. So that I learned a lot about myself in that year. And even though I met Eric soon after, we developed a friendship over that year. So yeah, I've had feelings for him and stuff, and we talked on the phone a lot, but um, and I was also in school, like I was away, so it's kind of just better that we also didn't start a relationship. But I gave myself that year totally. I promised myself, and I followed through, and it was a year of kind of me and learning about me, and like I mentioned before, the things that I like, things I don't like. There was some self-discovery. I'm trying to think. I think this is where I got the original idea of trying things that connecting back with things that I maybe hadn't done in a while that I used to like, to see that if I liked them again. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I feel like that was the kind of the summer of in that year I did a few of those things. One thing I can say that I really did was I focused on a bucket list, and I did a few kind of like fun living in the moment things with I visited a friend near Ottawa, and I got to she taught me how to milk a cow by hand. So just like silly little things like that, and learning how to drive a standard car, and just small things, but just very like when I think about that year, it's like, ooh, there was just so much self-discovery and curiosity and joy. Um, and then fast forward a few years to when I went out to the Coast Guard College, which was 7 years ago. That was another very for like same vibe. A lot of self-discovery because I was there for 6 months. I was away from home and my family and my friends. I'm with this new group that we kind of became our own little family unit for a bit there. And I had a very steady schedule, kind of 8 to 4 classroom, school time, and then evenings to do whatever I wanted. There's a pool on site, so I was swimming 2 to 3 times a week. I got a membership to um, the yoga studio in town. I had my car there, so I would do Monday night yin yoga, like warm yin yoga. That was a perfect way to start off the week. And then I was swimming a couple days, and then sometimes an instructor would come to the college and do like yoga session either at lunch or in the evening. So I was doing yoga probably 2 or 3 times a week, and swimming 2 or 3 times a week. There was also a forest on both sides of the college, and I had started doing the like couch to 5K, and I was able to actually finish it at the college and run 5K like consistently 35 minutes, which was something I never thought I would have been able to do, honestly. So that was like a new thing for me discovering about myself. And then that winter I my friend and I, we did a little adventure to try and find me a pair of skates. Now, I have size 11 women's shoes. So I needed a 10 women's skate. That's maybe not the easiest thing, but we actually found a pair. I think they were like $5 at the one of the thrift stores, secondhand, and got them sharpened up, and then I tried skating again. I hadn't skated probably like in years. And I did take lessons for a couple years when I was a kid and enjoyed it, and then it kind of got a little bit expensive and such, so I think that's why it ended, but it was something that I enjoyed as a kid, and having the opportunity to kind of rediscover, we skated on the river, we skated on a lake, we went to an arena for the free skate, and there was a little rink at the college on site as well. That was so fun. So I took that 6 months to again just kind of take a little bit of a lean back and a greater overview and looking at myself again. What do I like? What am I not super proud of? And giving myself that love and that grace. And then how do I want to move forward? Who do I want to be and where do I want to go with that? And starting to kind of move forward with that. Um, yeah, it was another great 6 months for that. Lots of another thing that I tried that I hadn't done since I was a kid was ball hockey. It was they had like a tournament or whatever. And I used to play like street hockey as a kid with my next door neighbor and across the street because I kind of grew up playing with boys a lot, and they loved hockey. So we would play like street hockey and ball hockey and whatever. So I've tried that once or twice at the college. Super fun. Played some badminton. Like it was just like a lot of things that I had kind of lost connection with and was curious like if I try this now, would I still like it? And the answer was yes, and I had a lot of fun with it, even if I fell and kind of ripped my yoga jeans a little bit. That's okay. Um, the next the next big catalyst for me that I'm currently navigating and I've talked about is losing my dad. Um, Big life events. So my first breakup, changing careers, they're big catalysts for change, right? Like they're kind of you're moving into someone new because of things that are happening in life. So with this one, I was in a place where I needed to learn and figure out who I am and how I show up and navigate the world without my dad here with me. Um, Definitely the biggest one. Total identity kind of life crisis. I went through a really long dark period that I've talked about before. And through that, there's been some, obviously, most recently getting back in the pool. And sorry, I keep saying I am mindful of it. I'm working on it. I also, I'm trying to think. This is all just kind of off the cuff. I didn't really make any notes for this, or I rarely do for my episodes. I could just kind of go with the flow. But a lot of in this chapter, healing and reflection, like deep reflective work on limiting beliefs and yeah, what am I believing about myself and the world around me? Is it serving me or is it not? And really taking an inventory of that holding that mirror up, not only just on me, but like the whole picture of all the external things moving around me and how I'm allowing them to affect my daily life. So this one kind of took it really wide picture. My dad's been gone, gosh, next month will be 3.5 years, which is wild. And that really his death really just launched me into it without without any notice or desire to do the work. And I think that's as I've I mean, the career change was my choice, but the breakup wasn't, and um this one wasn't. So sometimes life just kind of throws you into a new thing, and endings, like doors are absolutely slammed shut in your face, and we can choose to stare at the door that's slammed shut in our face and wallow in it, or we can kind of learn from it and decide to turn, face the other way, and see what doors are opening for us next. And that's what I choose to do. I do stare at the door for a little bit, going, what the actual just happened, right? That's normal. That's part of the grieving process, and that's okay. I wouldn't bypass that because you have to be able to look at the darkness and sit in it in order to see the light beyond it, right? The darkest skies show the brightest stars, and there's so much wisdom in that. So yeah, that's kind of to summarize those kind of three big areas of life and change where I dove into the work. And if you're curious about it, yeah, questions, send me a message. It's been the most like the most beautiful work that I've done for myself is learning to love myself, reconnecting with the things that I previously loved, and seeing what I love, and trying new things too, and then looking at how external things, how they've been affecting me, and if I'm going to allow them to continue or if I'm going to take my power back. That's what I would say the big theme of the last like year or so has been, is taking my power back to things that I previously felt a victim towards, like external circumstances, and deciding that like I get to drive the bus of my life and figuring out what that looks like. Who am I showing up to be, and what am I doing to do it, right? Learn how to drive the bus of my life. It's been fun. And through that, I started feeling the real pull to try try my hand at hosting a retreat. I have been feeling the nudge for a little while, for a few years actually. I think before my dad died, even before COVID, I want to say, or like in amongst that. And this spring, I hosted a women's like intuitive development weekend with some close girlfriends. It felt like a safe place to start and just kind of dip my toes and not feel overwhelmed by it, because people that I feel safe around, it went really well. I think I've talked about this before, so I won't like go into it, but that gave me the inspiration and the feedback that I got, and just kind of hearing the essence of how they felt about it was like, that is the exact vibe I was trying, that I wanted to create, and wanting to provide that space for others. So I'm planning out another retreat. I need to create some more content about it, but it's like I'm declaring it. It's for winter solstice. There's going to be very minimum spaces because there's it's just kind of a I booked an Airbnb, but it's gonna be really nice. It's kind of some forest around. There's a fire. There's gonna be a new moon on the Friday, so we'll do a campfire and a little bit of a journaling release ceremony, like a new moon ritual. Saturday workshop, and just some, it's the vibe that started coming to me when I knew that I wanted to host another retreat was nervous system nourishment. I knew that I wanted it to be like winding down. I didn't know when or where. And then when winter solstice came to me, I was like, "Pff, that is the exact like vibe and theme of nervous system nourishment." So it all made sense. The pieces are all coming to me. I'm finalizing details and price, already kind of talking about it a little bit on socials, and will be in the coming days and weeks. I'm excited. I'm excited to try this out, kind of like bigger. I feel the the energy, like it feels, I feel anxious, I feel the butterflies, but I know that it's excitement, I know that it's growth and not just feeling unsafe. I know that this is the anxiety, the excitement of expansion and of new experiences and opening new doors for myself and the people that I wish to serve. Yeah, so stay tuned for more details. And if you have a transformation story, some personal development that resonates from the story I just told, and you want to share it with me, find me on socials. I have a new Living on Lemonade group. I just wanted kind of new energy. I will put the link in the show notes. This will be sharing free offerings, paid offerings, retreats, workshops, those types of things, and then it just kind of Eastern and Western and woo all in between. So if that resonates with you, come join us. And it's going to be a beautiful space that we're going to build together. And I'm excited. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope this isn't too long. And I just knew that if I didn't sit down and record today, it wasn't going to happen, and I was going to miss my Monday deadline again. So I'm going to head off to my mom's shortly, get ready for our vendor event tomorrow, and then I work the next day. So yeah, I'm glad I recorded. I hope there's a tidbit, something, a nugget in there for you. And yeah, I'll see you inside the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye.